Hey, 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 it's Filter Free Friday, y'all. Listen, I am so glad y'all are here. It is now officially the end of August, and I think my birthday season is over. And it makes me think about my best friend today because typically, and this has been for years, she usually gives me my birthday present when it's her birthday. So I would typically get my birthday present around September 1st or so. But this year, because I had a birthday party, she gave me my birthday present at the party. And I remember responding saying, now what the heck am I going to do when September comes and I don't have a late birthday present to look forward to? Because I have consistently been getting birthday presents since the birthday party. And that includes this week. But I love talking about my best friend, and I hope she will grant me grace today because I did not get her permission to do this. But we are exactly the opposite Myers Briggs type. And this week, I had seen some posts that says that Myers Briggs is and Enneagrams and all of these personality types are fake. Well, one thing that I struggle with is that they're they are so spot on when you're trying to coach someone, when you experience communication problems, conflict problems, approach to change issues inside organizations. You can kind of go to a validated Myers-Briggs assessment and figure out what the challenge is. In fact, one of my girlfriends from college used to struggle with her child, with her son, and almost always it was her trying to make him be like her. And so I got this little tool. It's called the Myers-Briggs Flip Book. And first, let me talk about myself. It says that my strengths, based on my type, are that I critique and debate intellectual concepts, that I love to do that. That I often offer a wide range of creative options when I'm working on a project. And what I like is exploring new people, new possibilities, new ways to create change. I love using creativity to solve problems. And in fact, it says I focus primarily on the future and I give a wealth of creative ideas and options. And I don't like this language, but it says I have the ability to dispassionately play the devil's advocate. I'm not the devil's advocate, honey. The devil don't need no advocates. That little Christian come out sometimes. Regardless of my personal opinion, I can play the devil's advocate, is what this says. But my friend, um, she's a hard worker in an organized way. She is a good team player who is willing to help out and ensure everyone meets their targets. And she likes focusing on past experiences, focusing on facts that fit with her interest. And she likes applying past experiences to problem solving. What she wants is to have you show respect for others and not be aggressive and domineering. What my best friend wants is to know my expectations of them so that she doesn't disappoint me. Now, here's the thing: challenges. My challenges are, if this is on the paper, ignoring or disregarding rules, procedures, or detailed routine tasks. This week, I have to spend a lot of time working on quarterly taxes and I'm hating life. Okay. And then the second challenge that's listed is a lack of awareness when people take my intellectual critique of their thinking personally. I am always surprised when people take something that I do or say personally. In fact, I have a dry cleaning service. They drop my dry cleaning off at the house. When they drop it off here, they hang it on the doorknob. I had borrowed a friend's outfit and I was in a rush. I have been spending 5 to 6 hours in somebody's wellness clinic since that dang accident so that I can move. And I've been operating without some of the support that I'm used to. So when I was returning the suit, I hung it on the door. That's how my dry cleaning gets delivered. I didn't realize that that's rude, right? Or rude to some people because that's how my dry cleaning gets delivered. It's a simple misunderstanding, right? But when I think about my best friend, uh, she neglects to speak up, even if she disagrees with others, and even when she's right, because she cares that much about people's feelings. But we have been best friends since we were 11. Why does this work? Because she knows that I'm a critique and she's not going to take it personally. Sometimes I'm going to speak up for her. I've done almost been fists to cuffs for her when she was right. But then, you know what? When I'm about to make a risky decision, I can call her and she can help me calculate that thing and make sure that there's not some horrible consequences on the other side to talk it through. Most of our relationships have been me talking, her listening. And it works because I don't try to change her to being me, and she don't try to change me into being her. We recognize that God has uniquely designed us different, right? And this little book is a less personal but beautiful way of helping people who have different personalities be able to get along. So I balk a little bit when people say that there's like no validity in it. And every day of my life, I am shocked that someone takes my critique of their thinking personally. And that happened this week. It happened yesterday. It happens always. But it's part of my personality, which means I'm going to critique ideas intellectually and people going to take it personally. And then I'm going to be shocked when it happens. It's on the paper. I can work on it. I can try to be better. But when I think about just willfully going into spaces where people vehemently disagree, so that we can debate ideas, I'm excited about that. You know, it's in the paper, unless it's like the show Surrounded. I was introduced to the show, but when Mehdi Hassan was first on, debating ideas like, we shouldn't be killing babies in Gaza, right? That immigrants are good for America. And he's debating 20 people who disagree with these thoughts. I couldn't do that. What I was most surprised by was how calm he was. And then one of my friends from undergrad told me that I should watch the one with Candace Owens. By and large, she was arguing that women were happier when we stayed home and took care of children. And you know what I can't debate in that instance is the divorce rate in 1920 was like 1%. But women had zero rights. You couldn't get a house, you couldn't get a car, you couldn't get a credit card, you couldn't go to nobody's school for real. Why would someone get divorced in that time? You fast forward to 1950, it's still legal to beat your wife. Legal. It is still illegal for a woman to get, or legal to discriminate against a woman because she's pregnant or because she has children. The number of people in my family who I know had to stop working as teachers because they got pregnant. You can't, your brain stopped working. You can't teach no more. Listen, I love my son. I love being his mother. And what does the world lose out on if I am not an engineer? What does the world lose out on if I'm not in learning and development, helping people understand who they are by personality so that they can recognize there's good things about you, baby. And there's some things about you that you are going to be challenges for other people so that you can know how to adjust and flex where you can, and that you can know that sometimes you ain't going to find support. So you got to go to therapy to find support for who God uniquely designed you to be. What is the world missing out on if I am at home only? What did my son gain because he also got to be with me while I was teaching an ethics class? If he got to be with me while I'm teaching a personality course for En-ROSE, if he's with me when I'm teaching executive presence, this little joker don't realize it always. But part of the reason why he's able to show up in the ways that he shows up is because he was in my class. He was in my class. So what does it look like for him to be on the other side of Candace Owens saying, y'all women was happier when y'all was just at home doing nothing? And what I thought was fascinating about the person who sent it to me is that he is married to a woman who works. for the child who goes to school, who is not at home, homeschool. Hypocrisy is the exact opposite of empathy. Like when you don't think something is relevant to you, but you think it needs to be pushed onto someone else, it is really hard, even if you understand what another person thinks, feels, and believes, for you to move compassionately on that issue. Which takes me to this week. And my heart breaking wide open watching Amanda Seales debate 20 Black conservatives on things like, should we have reparations, on things like Black on Black crime is fictitious and the result of over policing and under resourcing communities. And if I'm being honest, I was flustered even from the start, because the idea of a Black radical debating Black conservatives to me feels like a divide, distract, destroy tactic. We ain't each other's enemies, I don't think. But the book Chaos or Community, dang, it ain't even up here today. It's downstairs. I wish anybody who ever quoted Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King ever would read that book, because the man, when people say I'm more Malcolm and less Martin, they haven't read his words on paper. The man was so bold in his telling of the truth about who we are as a nation, and critiquing our intellectual ideas, our variance from our Constitution and its amendments, and calling to the carpet Black people. Because you see, I won't even do that. I regularly pause when someone Black does something, because I'm like, we got enough critics. Okay, we don't need me throwing my hat into the critique ring. But I got that video of Surrounded of Amanda Seales sent to me by 6 people, half a dozen. And I said, all right, let me watch it. So I had to get through my 45-minute elliptical thing, and I struggled. So I said, well, let me watch it. Let me be in pain in 2 different ways. Now, when we're talking about reparations, the term means to repair harm. We know what it means to repair harm. If you have an accident and somebody broke something that belongs to you, the insurance is there for that person to repair harm, to pay you back. You expect to be paid back. When somebody is part of a wrongful death suit, or if, let's say an airplane fell on my house right now, let's say it killed me, my child is going to get paid, because we believe in the concept of repairing harm. As it relates to chattel slavery in the United States of America, slave holders were given reparations for the monies they lost until 2015, 10 years ago. We believe in repairing harm. So when I see her there talking to people who have opinions about a topic, not having done, there were 3 things at play here. The people she was debating, all to the person, didn't seem to understand what actually happened during chattel slavery, laws and regulations still on the books today that are disproportionately impacting Black people in America. And they also didn't seem to understand the concept that no matter what law is in place, that there will be people who can navigate that law. Like, as an example, a homeless child can be valedictorian. I can name 3 or 4 examples. I've written about them in books. That doesn't mean that homelessness makes it really hard to be a student in K-12 education. You kind of need an address, kind of need a place to study, kind of need a place to eat. You know, food, shelter, basics. So just because I can name a couple people who experience the thing does not mean that the other thing doesn't exist. And I watched her. What I'm envious of and wish I had is the ability to calmly sit and debate people who will say, well, what about Ben Carson? Or what about Thomas Sowell, however you say the American economist's name? I'm surprised I didn't hear Clarence Thomas, or if I did, I like blacked out during that moment. 3 people, you can name them. There was one sister who said, my parents were immigrants, they came here, they made it. The exception proves the rule. The exception proves the rule. And I remember in 2020 when George Floyd was murdered and we started talking about internalized racial oppression and white supremacist concepts and tone policing. And I thought to myself, this is a masterclass in lacking tactical empathy. Because the foundation of our knowledge around these topics is so low. It's like taking a person who does not know how to count and saying you're going to put them in college level calculus class. In fact, much of the work I got in 2020, 2021 was me purely saying, your folks ain't ready for this information. We have to start with, and I'm not a linear thinker. You know, my best friend, she's a linear thinker. She likes thinking in line. I am more circular in the way that I think about things. But I understand what it means to teach things to folks. And if you can't count, you can't do addition and subtraction. You struggle with as soon as I throw a letter in there. So you can't get pre-algebra or algebraic concepts. You can't understand calculus. So you're like, oh, let me take advantage of this moment and just put people in calculus class. And what we got was people failing. That's what we got. Somebody says to you, you know, oh, you got, all these issues with Black culture. It's toxic. And it's like, who are you talking about when you say that? I was sitting in a meeting yesterday. I think I looked this up. Somebody said that 80% of the Kansas City, the children in Kansas City are illiterate. I can't wait. I got to talk to the folks in the local school districts because I got to see some data on that because I just really have a hard time believing that that's the number. But I don't argue things for which I don't know. I'm gonna have to go look it up. But here's what I believe, and I might be oversimplifying it, but because it's social media, I'm gonna oversimplify it. Either you believe that there are reasons, systemic, institutional, or otherwise, that are responsible for the disproportionality for the differences, plain language, for the differences we see between races of people, or you fundamentally believe that there is something uniquely wrong with Black people. And if by chance you think there is something uniquely wrong with Black people, I don't care to debate you. I don't care to take a dispassionate view to be the devil's advocate, because that thinking is the devil. There's nothing uniquely wrong with Black people, except for we think that there's something wrong with Black people. You know, I taught, sometimes I get an opportunity to teach my own classes. I love it. I do it once a year. I think I should do it more times a year. And in this most recent session, one of the most profound things happened. So shocking. Someone came up to me to give me advice about content for which I have a registered trademark. I've studied thousands of peer-reviewed, evidence-based articles on the topic and made my own adjustments to add empathy. And from the U.S. Patent Office, have a registered trademark. And this someone, without asking any questions, without seeking any additional information, wanted to give me some advice based on their opinion from a podcast they listened to once. You see, I don't know what it looks like to engage in debate that moves us forward when you have evidence-based fact against opinion. And in today's rapidly moving environment where people want things so quickly, microwave, because we see technology just moving so fast. We think that also human development moves fast. It doesn't. When I was working on building my empathy muscle, it took me 4.5 years to really understand, not to know, to understand a singular concept that my executive coach was patient enough to work through with me for 4.5 years. I didn't even know he was doing it. But why do I bring that up? Because, yeah, everything can't be proven. Like if you ask me what's the ROI of my mother, there's no such thing as return on investment of my mother. I'm not gonna be able to give you a spreadsheet. Everything can't be proven. It's like when folks are like, what's the data you're gonna give me to show me that culture is good? Let me tell you what. You can walk into any workplace and spend 30 minutes there and tell if the culture is good or not. Watch the interactions of the people. Check their outcomes. But I will put together a proposal for you to talk about what it looks like to have a computational scientist discuss how well people are talking to each other, how high is trust levels, what are people's levels of accountability and commitment, all those things. But you can walk in and you can feel it. If you still go to fast food restaurants, you walk into a McDonald's and it's clean. You get your burger and the cheese is on top and not slid off to the side, and the people ain't yelling at you and someone says, welcome, and takes your order. You know that there's something good going on in that culture. Meanwhile, if you walk into one and you're like, it's dirty in here, the door broken, there's weeds outside, there's trash running over, the glass got fingerprints on it, and the people yelling at you, rolling their eyes if they got to talk to you, you know. Do I have to do an assessment to let you know that's a leadership problem? And so, yes, there are lived experiences. There are things that we just know. But when you're talking about whether or not somebody should get paid for the harm that's been done for them for 400 years, I want you to look and at least know that you have provided reparations and repaired harm for dozens of groups of people over centuries. So what is there unique about this particular group that you're like, nah, not them? It's Martin Luther King who said the skin is a stigma. And here's what I know. Here's what I know. When I write about this, when I talk about this, that it is almost always going to cost me. And let me tell you why. Because my challenges are, I am ignoring or disregarding the rules and procedures. The detailed routine task of attacking Blackness in America. And I lack awareness. And sometimes we should put don't care when people take my intellectual critique of their thinking personally. Because there is nothing uniquely wrong with Black people. And as my best friend is off doing the amazing work of teaching science and math to children in her school, in her classroom. One of the best science and math teachers I know. Also, one of the best mamas I know. You know why she's able to do that? Because she understands that enthusiasm costs nothing. That she spends no time talking about what's wrong with the parents of the children. She spends zero time looking back at who should have taught them to read, who should have taught them to add. And she says to herself, the person in front of me is the child who was going to get my love. I could not do the work she does. But I can tell you this, I'm damn sure going to push on the intellectual thinking of the person who says that that child who gets to her class, who is behind, who leaves her class because of scaffolding on par or better. I am going to balk every time that someone says that child can't make progress, is going to be violent, deserves to be stopped and frisked, deserves the worst of what our world has to offer. Because there is work to do, and she's the one doing it. And we've got plenty of people who can sit around and go, well, who's going to get reparations while you just sitting around playing video games and smoking weed? Who's sitting around playing video games and smoking weed? Expand your circle. And the reason why you won't, I got empathy for it. The reason why you won't is because you might learn something different. And I have empathy for that, because the reason why I didn't want to watch Surrounded was because I didn't want to know that that level of ignorance and vitriol and self-hatred existed. I could have gone my entire life without realizing we had 20 people we could put in a room and talk those things. Did I know it? Yeah, I knew it. Did I want to know it? No, I didn't want to know it. But here's the beautiful thing about that. Because I know that feeling, I understand what it looks like when it's in someone else. Even if I vehemently disagree. There's empathy on a very powerful level. And so I wasted 45 minutes of my life watching it. I understand what happened. I vehemently disagree. And it's just a beautiful testament. Because one of those people was a preacher. Gonna stand in front of his congregation and say those things. And advance those thoughts. And convince people that even God thinks there's something uniquely wrong with Black people. Listen, y'all, it's Filter Free Friday. We got work to do.